And it's running.
Yay!
Let me sit down.
Fluff my hair. Did you notice I dyed my hair red? Just
Oh.
for Gideon. I have... Okay.
Sorry, no, I didn't notice. I'm a guy.
It's okay.
We don't pay attention.
It matches my couch. I feel like now I'm part of the furniture.
And we're recording.
Awesome. So, which one do you want to do first? Gideon?
Gideon.
All right.
Let's get into Gideon.
Cool. Awesome. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
And we are going to be talking to you about Gideon the Ninth. So this one just came out, what, last year?
Yeah, 2019.
2019. So I love the synopsis on the front of this because this is like my favorite ever.
Read it.
Lesbian necromancers explore a haunted Gothic palace in space. Charles Stross. That is the most concise summary of this book. There's a little bit more to it than that.
Oh, yeah.
But this book blew me away. I'm just going to say right now, I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads.
I did too.
Really enjoyed this. The dialogue was very modern. Like, they drop F-bombs and say shit and damn and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it feels like very normal girls these age conversational talk. Like, it felt like these were real people. The characters were really nice and complex. The world building was phenomenal. Really enjoyed that. And I'm a sucker for necromancers personally. So I really, really enjoyed seeing kind of a space wizards concept, not just with necromancers, but not Jedi for once. This was really, really well done. For me, it's an instant classic. So, yeah, lesbian necromancers explore a haunted Gothic palace in space. Gideon and Harrow are rivals. Very, very strong rivals. They are the only 2 of their generation that live on the in the 9th house, which is like the 9th planet from the sun or something like that. It's got a really nice complex like hierarchy in the beginning where it gives you like a nice synopsis of who and everyone is and what they all do, and it has little symbols that represent each of them. So that's really nice. I like books that are that complex. But yeah, so Harrow is a necromancer, and Gideon is just some chump kid who lives in the 9th house, and Harrow's cavalier bails. He's kind of a spineless prick, so he and his mother flee on some transport off the planet, and Harrow's like, well, I just got this letter from, like, God, basically the guy who they consider as God. He's God Undying. He's a lector of some kind or whatever. That they need more lectors, so he, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right.
I don't either.
But they need more lectors. So he gets all of the necromancers from each of the houses together, all the way from 2nd house to the 9th house, because he is the 1st house, because he's God. And he puts them on a deserted and dying planet, and says, hey, there are the keys to finding out how to become the next lector in this building, and you just gotta rummage around and figure it out. And of course, they start rummaging around and trying to figure it out. Everybody's rivaling everybody else, and then they all start getting picked off one by one. Ended up getting some people killed, and so Gideon and Harrow are trying to semi-figure out why they're getting picked off, but really Harrow's just more focused on trying to become the next lector, and Gideon's just, loathing her through most of the book. The dynamics of the friendship do change. I don't want to give away too much because it has such a nice ending. And
somebody's about to join us.
Yeah, Shelby, I think, is about to jump up and say hello to everyone.
On up.
You can come on.
Come on up.
Kitty girl.
Come on.
It's okay. She's rethinking her life for a moment here.
I don't bite. Sometimes I bark.
Maybe she's afraid of the book. Anyway. So yeah, we really enjoyed this book. I found it to be really deeply emotional characters. Like, every time somebody died, my heart broke a little. Like, I cried a lot in this book because, if it's a book about necromancers, people and things are going to die. I already like came into it understanding that because I've
Mhm.
read like my introduction to necromancers was with Garth Nix's Aberson trilogy.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have this one who's trying to keep the dead down, but everybody else is a regular necromancer where they're just trying to rise up the dead and destroy each other and take over the world, basically. So, kind of similar, but it was nice to see necromancers in more of a positive light.
Mhm.
Like, they were just trying to represent their houses well and deal with that. And, like, some of them were even trying to make alliances and actually genuinely be friends with one another. Gideon is a very tragic character. I do tend to love... I have such a crush on Gideon. I have a little lady crush on Gideon. She's so cool. But, yeah, it's kind of like... It's really interesting to see how... Like, what we typically understand about necromancers from various myths, this kind of swings it around a little bit, where it's not as... There's still trickery, there's still some skepticism amongst themselves, but for the most part, they're all just trying to do what they think is really right for their houses and for their own good or, you know, their own circumstances. There are very few in this book who are actually in it for selfish reasons, and some of them don't even want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting to see those inner conflicts. It's interesting to see friendships. Gideon and Harrow hate each other, so there's some really great comedic relief in there as, you know, they're trying to navigate looking like they're friends when they're not, and then eventually becoming friends and, like, trying to deal with the emotions of that. Because they had to basically team up and be better for each other and be there for each other. So, I mean, it's really, really interesting. I love the complexity of the characters. I loved the complexity of the, just the world that they were building. Like how this big Gothic palace is also a lab, a science lab for necromantic powers and theories. So how they kind of balance it between this really old world feeling and this very modern concept of a lab was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also lesbians. Like, it's not so outwardly lesbian that you feel like they're cramming it down your throat. It's just part of their personalities where sometimes she's like, man, that chick over there from such and such house is hot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that can be distracting for someone. So I didn't feel like it didn't feel like they were trying so hard to make you really aware that they were a lesbian.
Right.
It just felt really natural and normal, which I thought was the way it should be.
They just came across as people.
Yeah, they're just people making commentary about other people, and I really love how Gideon talks about Babs.
Okay.
He's one of the other Cavaliers. She's like, I resent him. I resent his perfect hair and his perfect teeth and his perfect I just loved that dialogue too. Like, every time she encounters him, is like he's like a grade A douchebag, and you know it because he looks like it. So, I mean, they really came across as very relatable, very real people.
Yeah.
And very relatable, I think, to a lot of people these days where, you know, it's not so taboo to be homosexual in any manner. So I think I really appreciated the way this book was written. I really appreciated how the relationships were complicated and the dynamics. I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed this book.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I literally cried when certain people died in this book. And I was ready for people to die. And I'm like, it's always going to be my favorite ones. Because you just know. But I literally, like, mourned losses in this book. It was very deeply emotional for me. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it a lot, though. Really, really great book.
Well, I'm coming to this book from a much different perspective. I'm the old guy that grew up with Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov. I was just telling Emily, I haven't read any new novels that, you know, have recently been published since the 1980s. I think the last one was probably 2010 Odyssey 2. Oh, wow. A very long time ago. It's 30, 40 years since I picked up a brand new published book and read it. And so there's at least 30 years of science fiction and fantasy that I've never read, that everybody else at this point has read. And so I was wanting to read something more current. last fall, and I came across an interview with Tamsyn Muir. Not sure how you pronounce that name.
That's how it's spelled. If you can see it.
Muir.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me how to pronounce that. But I read an interview online with her, I think through Tor, and was blown away by her and her intelligence and personality. And so I thought I gotta try this out, read something by her. So Tor Books released a free, like, 3 first chapters of this book, and I read them, and I was blown away. So I instantly went on Amazon and ordered the hardcover, and so this is the first new book that I've read in its entirety since the early 1980s, and I loved it. It blew me away. It's very, very different from what I normally read. I'm the hard science fiction guy. This. They call it kind of science fiction, science fantasy. There's a heavy fantasy element, but there's so many other different genres going on. I mean, there's some, and then there were non-Agatha Christie vibes to this book, and so there's mystery to it. There's fantasy. There's science fiction.
There's romance.
There's a little of everything going on. The whole lesbian thing, like she said, I was. When I got into it, I was going, okay, so there's going to be like lesbian sex going on in this. No, there's none of that. I mean, the character's lesbian, but it's not about her sex. Yeah. It's not about her sexuality. That's just it's
just
a fact.
A part of her.
It's on the side. There's no lesbian sex scenes.
It's not a big deal. That's what I liked about it so much, is they didn't make it a big deal.
Right, which they shouldn't
be.
They shouldn't, and I think that's a good point that needs to be made, especially right now. I feel like we're just getting avalanched with LGBTQ everything, and it's like, well, we got to get to where we just treat people like they're people and stop pigeonholing everybody, stop labeling everybody, stop being so obsessed with everybody's differences, and treat everybody more like we're all part of the same race.
Yeah, it's not even like, I think it's okay to label people. It's not okay to label them so harshly that you start having prejudices. And you start building, like, hateful feelings towards
which I'm kind of worried
things.
is the path we're going down.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this is that, okay, she's a lesbian character, but it's not a big deal.
It's just a thing.
There's no big deal made out of it. And so I love it.
Yeah, it's
I'm
fantastic.
Totally for it. And I love the big skeleton fight at the beginning that reminded me of Jason the Argonauts, and just the mystery going on, and the fact that this world, they are descended from human beings. Earth is in their far distant past somewhere. But
they keep hinting at it a lot.
Yeah, and they kind of, if I remember right, there was some technology that was kind of like 21st century that was, in this castle, but otherwise, they have this whole new technology that's really more like magic, which of course comes from Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's exactly what you have here, is a technology that's so far advanced that it's just like all the magic in our fantasy books. And then the whole thing is placed in an old dark castle, which is very gothic and harks back to movies like The Old Dark House or Cat and the Canary, or books like
and all the
Castle
servants
of Otranto.
in this castle are skeletons.
Yeah, and so you have this heavy
Which
gothic aspect to the story. It's a little of everything kind of thrown in here, and that in any other author, this thing would just fail because it's too much trying to be juggled at once. She pulls it off. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Yes.
I loved it. I think this is an amazing book, and I do have Harrow the Ninth.
The next
I have a copy. I pre-ordered this, and it came in August, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Excited to read it.
There's a third book, which is supposed to be coming out sometime in 2022.
I was talking to my mom about that because I was like, I'm afraid to start reading it and then have such a long period of time. But she's like, though, a lot of life is going to happen between now and then. I'm like, okay, no, don't go saying that. You're going to jinx it, Mom. But she's not wrong. There are other great books and stuff that you can read in between to kind of like get it, wait until the next one comes out. But
Sure, but when you're getting up to my age, it becomes an issue of, am I going to remember these books in 2022?
yeah, do I have to reread them? Yeah. By the time I get there,
So
I'm
I
very
kind of want to
excited.
space them out. So I'll probably wait till,
excited.
I don't know, next summer to read Harrow the Ninth, a little closer to the release of the third book.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely, I have the book. I want to read it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the third book. I'm looking forward to anything else Tamsyn Muir writes and publishes. I went online. I kind of looked up what else she has written. She's written some short stories, handful of short stories, and I tracked down a book. It's a big time travel anthology, The Time Traveler's Almanac, and it has her first published short story in it. So I had to get that, and that's on shipping on its way to me right now.
Nice.
But this anthology, it's got everything. It's got the time machine. It's got all kinds of classics,
That's
time
awesome.
travel tales.
That is
So I'm
awesome.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think I found a new favorite author, or at least one to add to my list, because I'm really enjoying this. And of course, my very first encounter with one of my favorite authors ever was Necromancers with Garth Nix. So like having this whole I love I have a really soft place for Necromancers particularly. I know that's a weird thing to say, but because that was the book that got me really reading and really enjoying fantasy stuff, having that necrotic background, this just really refreshed my love of reading, especially in this particular genre. I like how it is, like you said before, that fantasy balances almost with science fiction, because all of the necrotic powers they have are theories, mystical theories that are formulas that you have to kind of figure out. So it's kind of like alchemy meets that science part. Oh, it's just so well done. And it makes perfect sense. When they start explaining it and dumbing it down for the Cavaliers who have no idea really what's going on, it is explained well. You understand that it makes sense. You have good plausible deniability. So it's just really well done. Yep. 5 out of 5.
Oh, definitely.
5 stars.
It's on our list of best all-time books already.
Yep.
And it, of course, was nominated for almost everything. It only won one award. I think it was Under the Nebulas for Best New Book, which was kind of disappointing. It got beat out for all the Best Novel of the Year books, Best Novel of the Year awards. But that's how it goes.
Yeah. I think they made a mistake.
Well, I mean, I haven't read any of the others.
I don't care.
The ones that
they
beat
made a mistake.
They might have been good books.
Fuck those people. No.
But yeah, I was really hoping to see this one take a lot more awards this year, and was disappointed when it only got the one. But it did get the one.
Yeah, it got the one. I think a lot of people, it's 2020. I think people are having a harder time with dark themes. Right now, I think they want more lighthearted things, or things that are a little bit warmer and fuzzier. This is not warmer and fuzzier, but I still... It had great moments of warm and fuzzy, though. Did. It had those moments where people were you're just oh. Oh.
Yeah, that was the cool thing is the basic plot of Gideon the Ninth is all about these two characters going from absolutely hating one another and fighting with one another to growing and getting closer to one another, almost like siblings would. When you're kids, you do nothing but fight, but then as you become adults, you become a lot closer to one another.
I was really surprised too, because they decided to go with stronger friendship route instead of going with a romantic route with those two characters, as I thought they probably would end up doing, but they didn't. They just became
hated each other too much.
Yeah, they had been through too much crap together to really fall in love, so it made sense, but easily could have gone that route and didn't. They just became these really good building sisterhood relationship towards the end of the book, and it's that was just really wholesome, and really I really appreciated that they could finally make a connection, and because both of them were just starving for someone to care about them.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole story, you just get this sense of neither of them had people who in their life who really supported them and loved them ever. So now they could build them, become family to one another, and actually get emotional attachments and like build a relationship and have a healthy functioning relationship.
Well, functioning
As
it was.
functioning as as functioning as it could be, but at least
Mhm.
have some semblance of someone caring for them. I thought that was a really great and very complex way of doing it, but it worked. It was really well done, and I think we need more. I think we need more books that do that, where you have these complex relationships, because that's just so realistic. Like, your friends are not all like happy go lucky, life is great. Sometimes you have hard stuff you go through with your peers and your friends, and
Right.
it does build it builds an appreciation for those people over time, and it can make a friendship better or stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciated that aspect of it, for sure. And I love complex characters like Gideon.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her a lot.
Yeah, the
And
characterization of this was
she
brilliant.
has
Like she said, the world building was
great
brilliant.
dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite dialogue. She says some of the funniest shit. I just love. Oh, she kind of reminds me of my brother. My little brother.
I've worked with
that.
women like Gideon back in my days working in the restaurant.
I loved it. I love straight shooters like that. A lot of my friends are real straight shooter, strong women who are just like, you know, and I just really appreciated that character a lot. And like her humor and sarcasm balanced out a lot of the heaviness of the story very easily. Like, I felt like I needed that comedic relief, and I love Gideon. I love her.
And something I came across that I wanted to bring up in this discussion is, I won't name who, but someone on YouTube did a review of this and did a review of Mexican Gothic, where they were commenting how they didn't like the books because they didn't like the strong women. They thought that made the books weak. They thought it was unrealistic. It just kind of blew my mind. I mean, I didn't mind it. I'm not marrying Gideon, so I don't have to try to live with her. But I can see from it, someone from my generation maybe not understanding that so much. But I think that the vast majority of people reading science fiction and fantasy today are, like Emily. I think she's basically the
because I am the most important
audience.
person in the planet. No, I'm kidding.
People like her are basically the target audience of most of publishing, and so I just wanted to ask, what do you think? Do you go for the books that have that kind of strong female character?
I do. I like strong female characters, mainly because women are strong and we are powerful, and we like being represented. I think sci-fi for a long time has had like the very 1950s view of women, where they're just like the damsel in distress kind of thing,
or the Isaac Asimov way, where if they're there,
they're the wall,
are just in the background.
Yeah, they're wallpaper. Really, they're just arm candy or whatever. And I think representation is so important. Like, there are so many young girls who are being told, go into science, go into writing, go into this stuff, but they need to be represented. And in order to feel like they have a place there. And I feel like this is a good book that kind of gets young women who are strong, who have had hard times in their past, or have like really dysfunctional family situations, or no
or
family.
Dealing with abusive relationships.
Yes.
Gideon is very much abused. She's basically a slave.
Yes.
But she doesn't take anybody's shit doing it. She gives it right. She
really
dishes it right back as much as she can.
Rolls with the punches and dishes back. Yes. And she doesn't have a problem with who she is at all. And I think we need to see that more in literature, and especially because women are starting to become that now. Like, we're sick of being told what we are, and we want to be who we feel we are inside anyway, and be unashamed of it. And I definitely appreciate characters like that. I felt the same way about Sabriel with Garth Nix. Despite being written by a male, that was a very realistic female character. I appreciated how he made such great, respectful, strong female characters.
Yeah.
And then gave them respectful relationships that were complicated, but like, they weren't the inferior or weaker of the sex. Like, they were a powerful person in this world that he had built. I feel like Gideon is the same for me, where she and Harrow are these really strong, independent females who really just want to do what's right, whatever that looks like, whether it's for them or for their, house or for each other or whatever the circumstances presents. They're just trying to do what's right.
Right.
And I think that was really, really well done. And I think more women are looking for that now, especially young women who, want representation like that. Because it matters. I feel the same way about, I haven't read it yet, but the Black Alice series, Blade So Black. It's African-American fantasy. And I think that's wonderful because it's got a strong female character. She's representing the African-American community or African Black community. However, I don't even know if she's American or if she's European or what the basis of that story is yet because I haven't read it yet. But I think it's important to have those stories.
Yeah.
Just to have the representation because there are all types. And I think it's the same for men too. There's all types. So having representation matters.
And it, like I say, I was entertained by it. I thought the character was funny and interesting and it was just a darn good story.
Yeah, it's really well done. I liked it. And I appreciate, again, I want to reiterate this. I had this conversation with a friend of mine from college when he had mentioned he had read it as well. And I was like, yes. So we just appreciate that now we're kind of over that space Western feel. Like, we appreciated it with Star Wars. We appreciated it with, like, Joss Whedon's television series Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
It was appreciated for its time. But now we have a space wizard that's not a Jedi.
Yeah.
And we can, I like seeing that dynamic change, finally. I'm really appreciating this. I'm appreciating that you're kind of taking this old concept of necromancer and changing it. Like, there's a lot of transition happening in sci-fi, I think, literature, and this is a big pivotal one for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm appreciating that a lot. Good stuff.
Okay, so I think we're about talked out about it. It's just a great
now I'm just
book.
going to start repeating how much I love it.
It's a great book. If you haven't read it already, go out and get it and read it.
Yeah.
And chances, obviously it's not for everyone, but chances are you're going to like this book. It's definitely a book for today's readers. Yeah. And even us old guys can still like it.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. That's for sure. So yeah, like, subscribe, tell us what you thought if you've read it. We're really excited about Harrow. Please don't give us any spoilers, but tell us how much you liked Harrow too, because we're excited. So yeah, let us know. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.